Yesterday, I shared an article and it was written in the New York Times by a guy who was talking about why your career may depend on not being on social media. Obviously, for a lot of reasons in the business I'm in, I don't necessarily agree with his stance. But one of the things that I did do was I shared the article, of course, on social media because I believe that different viewpoints are really important. And one of the interesting things that came from me sharing this article was I saw how some people who are passionate fans and believers in social media can almost take a mob mentality and come after you. Now, note, when I shared this, I even said I don't really necessarily agree, but I thought it was interesting, especially because he makes some points about how there's so much value in scarcity, and because now we share every thought and everything that comes across our mind is so important that, is there a lot of value in what we do anymore? And he also made some good points about not every field, not every job needs to be all about being on Facebook and social media and Twitter and LinkedIn. But the people in the business, of course, want you to feel like you have to be because that's how we make money. But anyhow, it was really interesting though, the responses though, how some people got so frustrated and got so mad and even didn't read the comments that I left about the fact that it isn't all about being right and wrong, but it's about taking another viewpoint. And that's kind of what I thought would be really important to talk about here for a second is why is it that we create our own echo chambers? And what may actually be the best separation of ourselves and everybody else is the stopping doing that. Now, I read an article with an obvious opposing viewpoint to something that I believe as someone that's in the business of using social to build my customers and build my enterprise. However, his viewpoint was something different. His viewpoint is we share too much, we've lost value, there's no more scarcity in what we do because we believe everything that comes through our head is important enough that we need to share it. And it also made me realize another thing is that the media as a whole, our feeling and our need to create content constantly has actually started to limit a little bit the quality of what we do. And I don't think this is an unknown entity, but we are so busy thinking about everything we're doing and how we can create it into a social media moment that we no longer think about the quality of what we do and the opportunity to learn. So here's an article, here's another viewpoint, and I ask you, how often do you actually read something that doesn't support your viewpoint? How often do you read it with an open mind and take the chance to say, hey, maybe I'll learn something today from somebody who doesn't think like me? And for most of us, I don't think we do. I, in fact, think people that were arguing with me over the article, most of them probably didn't even read the whole thing. They just read the headline or maybe read the first few paragraphs and where he pointed out that he's not a social media user himself and they said, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And maybe he doesn't, but one thing I did see, and actually Robert Scoble said this the other day, is you should read 100 articles for every one that you publish. I question so many people about that, even myself. I don't read enough, and everybody could benefit from reading more because you learn more, and we could benefit from reading more of what doesn't necessarily support our worldview. This isn't just about social and digital and business. This is what creates so much separation in our population. This is what created so much drama in our election is people are generally not educating themselves and they're not willing to listen to whatever doesn't support their worldview. And in an age where there's so much content that can basically validate what we already think, instead of saying, well, what else do I need to know? And what more can I learn? We choose to do none of that. And all we do is we read more and more information and surround ourselves with an echo chamber of people who say and believe the same things we do. And then in the end, we're really narrow-minded people. And that leads us to a world without a lot of creativity, with a lot of boundaries and a lot of limitations and small circles. And for me, I think it's so important that people take a second and step outside of their comfort zone and learn something, and God forbid, take a chance to read something and say, oh my God, that person makes a good point. It's not the way I see the world for sure, but they make a good point, and maybe I should learn more about it. Because I tell you what, if we keep going down this path of only listening and only believing and only reading the things that support what we already believe, we as a society will never become better.